So Donald Trump was recently asked, can you give a grade for the economy? And his answer was A+. Plus, 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 right? So for real, these are actually our headlines. Trump rates economy A++++++++, ahead of event touting affordability. And yes, we are indeed on a South Park timeline. See it for yourself.
Pretty good.
But I do want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home. And I wonder what grade you would give your economy. A+.
Yeah, A++++++.
Well, it's interesting.
So that was Donald Trump doing what Trump does best. He's completely disconnected from regular people and often Trumpy land, right? While that is going on, his handlers are basically panicking behind the scenes and trying to figure out, oh my God, this thing is completely a train wreck. What do we do? And I guess they're going to try to send him back to his roots. And where's that? A casino. Yes, this is their plan. Send Trump to a casino. Trump will again test, quote, blame Democrats' message on the economy, this time at a casino. And yes, it's as crazy as it sounds. They're going to go to, I guess, Mount Pocono area in Pennsylvania. It's a casino resort. I had to look this up for myself because I haven't been here. If you guys have been here, you can let me know. Mount Airy Casino Resort and Spa. So I guess the game plan here is give some sort of speech, make sure everyone's drunk, basically. Seriously, you're at a casino. There's going to be a lot of gambling, a lot of loud noises, because every time Trump talks, he'll talk right in front of an airplane or a helicopter so that you can barely hear him. I mean, they do this to try to mask the stupid stuff that he's saying. And then I guess when people are at a casino, they're used to losing. Because you guys ever been to a casino, basically, you lose at blackjack, you lose at poker, you're going to lose at the slots, and then you listen to Trump talk while you're drinking, and you're going to hear about more losing. That's basically what it is. And on top of that, most people aren't really falling for this crap anymore. Have a listen to this.
Well, Kate, look, if voters were giving this economy a report card, it's clear they would give it a much, much lower grade than what the president did. And I'm not just talking about those 5 pluses. I mean, consumer confidence is near all-time lows. A lot of voters think that the president's policies are doing more harm than good. Look at this Gallup poll from earlier in November. Just 27% of adults say that the economy is getting better. That's down from 31% in October, the lowest reading since July 2024 under former President Biden. Far more say it's getting worse. And part of that is because of the cost of living.
So that was the key poll. Is the economy getting better or worse, right? 27% say better, 68% say worse. And it's going to end up probably being like that for a while, to where his base, it could be 30, it could be 25, kind of in that range. I'm curious, though, will this get to single digits? Because the Republicans are just absolutely going to probably get trounced in the midterms. That's how it's looking right now. You never know for sure, so always do show up at the polls, make your voice heard. But when you look at the stuff that Trump said, like this in this last interview, you can see like how disconnected he is. Look at this. Burns says, so sir, Trump, so wait a minute. So some people would say, don't focus on anything outside of our border. Okay. I like that too, but I've made trillions and trillions of dollars and solved problems and solved wars. Do you know most of the wars that I have solved were solved sitting behind the Oval Office desk on a telephone? So in Trump's mind, he just sits at his desk all day, plays with the toys. He really does have toys, not making it up. And he just makes phone calls, and therefore he solves everything. That's what he believes. I think that those are worthy phone calls, okay? Even if they didn't impact us to save millions of lives from another country. And if I can do that easily because I have that ability, are pretty good. Okay, great. But I want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home. And I wonder, what grade would you give the economy? A+? Yeah, A+++++++. She goes on. I want to continue to see the rest of it happen. Well, that's interesting because I talked to a supporter of yours. Her name is Melanie from Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, and she loves you. She gave you an overall A++ grade. So this is actually part of the Trumpy land language. There are some people who still think things are okay, I guess, at least from Melanie from Pennsylvania. Here's more. But here's what she said about the economy. She said, quote, groceries, utility, insurance, and basic cost of running a small business keep rising faster than wages. She also says that not enough is being done. Mr. President, this is one of your supporters. And it's always strange when you read this stuff from Trump people, because first she's like, okay, Trump's, everything's A plus 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 plus, I guess, right? But then she lists all this stuff, like all these things that are too expensive. You can't even run your business. And I don't know, the Trump MAGA people, that like in this weird delusional world, and you guys probably see it around you as well. Whenever I read this stuff, it's so bizarre. I will say this though, not everyone falls for Trumpy stuff. Have a listen to this.
The kids are very understanding. They're old enough to understand that things are really rough. But, if this was like 2 years ago, they would just be thinking, why am I so bad? And I don't want my grandkids to ever think that they're bad because they couldn't get anything. I just want our economy to be back to where it was. I want people to be safe again.
And honestly, I felt really sad listening to that woman, and I understand her point of view, right? How do you explain this stuff to kids? How do you explain any of this stuff to kids? And how are we going to explain this stuff to our grandkids? I mean, I know we make jokes about the Trumpy stuff, but I also just want to make it clear, a lot of people out there are hurting. It's hard. And when you see Trump every day, he's just so disconnected from the regular people. And today we got some sort of inside information on what they're doing, what their plan is or lack thereof, and what his handlers are thinking about him. So let me show you guys this. It's pretty interesting. It says 7 takeaways from Politico's interview with Donald Trump. This is where that A++ thing came from. So first it says Trump had a litmus test for his new Fed chair, lowering interest rates immediately. So it's funny because on the surface he'll say everything's awesome, plus, you're all doing great, right? Fantastic. But then on the other hand, whenever he talks about the Fed, he needs them to lower rates so everyone can go back to borrowing as much as we possibly can, and let's see if we can overheat this economy. It's crazy because the problem is if you run the economy and the Fed, right, monetary policy based on the whims of a guy like Trump who's disconnected from society, I'll just say this, destroy everything. I'll just put the most basic terms because you're not dealing with anything rational whatsoever. My personal opinion of stuff, I just want adults in the room. So a lot of these things, like, it shouldn't just be based on, hey, I changed my mind because someone tweeted me something, or I'm doing a tweet back, or, someone who spends all their time just watching Fox News. That's what he does. And you can just see how disconnected he is. But yeah, for him, cut rates, everyone get back to printing again. This was another one he said. It says, Trump, Hegseth can testify before Congress, quote, if he wants. I think Trump's going to try to distance himself as much as he can from Hegseth if anything comes of this. But that's how Trump thinks about anything, right? If things go sour in USA after the presidency, he'll probably run away to Argentina, maybe Russia or whatever. He'll just distance himself, or just hang out in Florida, hire a bunch of bodyguards and live on the island. for real. Like, it is so obvious, all of this stuff, and it's hard to go through this every day because to me it's obvious, but you realize that there's a segment of the population that no matter how bad their life gets, they just refuse to see the truth, I guess. It's like trying to talk to your friend who's in an abusive relationship, if you guys know. Trump offered little clarity on healthcare legislation. So basically, Republicans have no plan. You could argue their plan is just cut off the bottom half of society, or bottom 90% of society, if ever you wanted to state it, wherever that cutoff ends up being. But yeah, they're not that concerned about helping regular people. It's obvious. You can see it in the interviews. Trump said he will consider more carve-outs from tariffs to lower prices for Americans. And this is the quote here. Sure, I've done that already with coffee. They're very small carve-outs. It's not a big deal. Oh, okay. This is all a problem he created, right? He creates this problem. Then he'll act the tariff situation, pissing out trade partners, right? And he'll act like it's all Biden's fault. And then Trump will come in and like reverse some of the tariffs if you give him, Instagram photo, or you come in and kiss his butt or whatever. It's all gaslighting, like 101. It's basically, again, abusive relationship. So that's what they're planning on doing. Trump hands off another approach to decaying, quote, weak Europe. So he's going to attack countries in Europe. He never said anything bad about Russia. That's who Trump is. The whole thing's crazy. It's like it's all in public. Trump said it's time for Ukraine to hold an election. So this was an interesting one. I'll read it real quick. He says, they're using war not to hold an election, but I would think the Ukrainian people should have that choice, and maybe Zelensky would win. I don't know who would win. So I think this is the plan at the moment, probably that Putin's pushing for. So from Putin's point of view, he'll want to install a pro-Russian person in Ukraine. and he'll try to get Trump to go along with that, right? So that's will be one way for Russia to continue attacking Ukraine, this time politically through elections, election interference, through misinformation, get Elon Musk X involved or whatever, and still try to seize the territory. So I think that's the current plan from Trump. So that was actually pretty revealing. And then you had this stuff, which I'll go through with. It says, these are people from the inside that talking about, what they're going to try to do with that trip to the casino. Yes, we are talking about the casino. One person familiar with the White House thinking on affordability, granted anonymity to discuss the matter candidly. Quote, it's an issue and the only way to address it head on, sooner the better, okay? So before, Trump just basically tells you you're all going to be rich and we're making all this money from tariffs, which is a total nonsense. And then now behind the scenes, they know that they have to address the affordability issue because things cost too much money, right? So even though Trump's completely disconnected, his handlers basically tell him what to say. And his handlers, they're smart enough to look at the polls, okay? That's basically what it boils down to. They're seeing the polls are getting crushed. And this is kind of their final, year, I want to say final countdown, right? Final countdown, right? Just like that. This is their last chance to try to save the Republican Party before they get crushed. And you'll see it in the stuff they're trying to do. Another person, a second person close to the White House, also granted anonymity to discuss internal deliberations, said the stop in Pennsylvania is the first in a, quote, tour where Trump will discuss the economy. But the person acknowledged that discussions about affordability concerns may not come naturally to the president because, quote, he truly believes what he says and that the economy is strong. And that part's interesting because I've always wondered these things, right? Is Trump lying? Is he, purposely like in delusional land? Like how do we think about this stuff when he says we're bringing in trillions and trillions of dollars? Like that's like this is it's not a true statement. He says not true statements all the time. And it's always like, are you completely delusional or are you just a total liar? It's a combination of the two. This one advisor would say, wow, he actually does believe things are great. But, the advisors would know. Like, not everyone, say the staffers, say like this, like that, and the Trump White House is completely disconnected. They can see the polling data. They'll talk to, say governors, for example. There was the rumor or report, I guess, I don't want to say it, that governors were complaining about Kristi Noem. They want her out, these kind of things. Stephen Miller wants her out. You'll see all of these wranglings behind the scenes. Another way to describe it as well is Trump's like this monster baby or baby monster. Either way, he's a baby and a monster put together. And he's wild, he's bizarre. And how do you keep the guy placated enough and happy enough, I guess, to get him to do what you want? I mean, he's just an old crazy grandpa. It's the easiest way to describe it. Anyone who's ever dealt with like an old crazy grandpa or old crazy grandma, it could be either or. You know how difficult it is. You're just like, Grandpa, we need you to sit down here because it's dinner time. Grandpa, we need you to go to bed because it's bedtime. Grandpa, we need you to take a shower because it's shower time. If you ever had to deal with that kind of situation, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know these are sensitive issues in every family out there, right? There's always a crazy family member that you kind of tolerate because you're related, right? You get it. And you're just trying to make sure that they don't burn the house down. That's basically what it boils down to. And that's essentially what the whole Trump thing is. But it could be depending on your family situation. But in this situation, the Trumpy administration / family, they're all greedy individuals fighting over the will. That's another way to describe this stuff. It comes up when you read through any of these things. You can kind of see where they're going. Here's more. This was actually pretty interesting. So this is some person that says Douglas Holt, who's the president of the center-right American Action Forum think tank, said, quote, every president blames his predecessor. I get that. That makes sense. But however, he suggested that this, tactic TAC only works for about a year. You own it. You're in the White House, good or bad. It happens on your watch. You own it. And they need to recognize that that's how the American people behave no matter what they say. So point being, even sort of more right-leaning people are just, politically savvy people are saying you can blame Biden for a year. It doesn't matter which president. You can blame your, former predecessor for a year, but after that, it doesn't work anymore. And then they start talking about marketing in Trump. And this would be more of the people who are in PR. If you're into campaigns and like how you run these things, they talk about their strategy. It's interesting. Here, the second person close to the White House called Trump's affordability message, quote, step one, only part of the fight. Okay. The person said they will continue to highlight advances made by the GOP mega law, but that quote, here it is, there's still a lot more work to do. You cannot sell a product that the people already feel is deficient. So it's going to take an altering the product as well. And I guess in this situation, you could argue two different things. Is Trump the product that we're trying to sell to the people that we're talking about? Or is it the economy? Is it the Republican Party? Whatever. But if the people think the product is deficient, like not good, not a good product, I don't want to buy a set of product, you got to figure out, okay, how can we change the image of the product? And this is, it's really fascinating. It tells you right here, like what they're talking about on the inside. There's another quote. I think he's well within his capabilities to bring the economy, the American people. Remember, they had under the first administration, okay? And he'll have to have a dual hat here, okay? Not only the, quote, CEO of America, so that's how they try to market him, but also the mayor of America. Interesting. And, quote, is more in touch with Main Street than Wall Street. And so this is the kind of language that you use, again, for those of you who in business, marketing, you're trying to sell something to the people. Before, they'd always talk about how, oh, Trump's this great business person, forget about all the bankruptcies, but he's got this great TV show, and you see this, great guy on TV, and look how great he is at business. So CEO of America, that was their kind of campaign, and now they're going to go for mayor of America and more in touch with Main Street over Wall Street. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on any one of these things, and I want to hear if you agree if the economy is an A++++++, right? So thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.